Hey, Shalom, welcome to Karma Pash from Jim. Starting giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bashem Chakodash. I want to give double honors unto the elders, the apostles of GMS, and Shalom out there to the hopeful that pushing his truth and all sincerity. Backing up another video. I watched this guy, Gary Economics, man. Intelligent dude, man. He speaks a lot of good things, concerning the economy, and what he thinks should happen to make things right in this economy where wealth is skewed to the wealthiest, right, and where everyone's getting pushed further into poverty, right? So he makes a lot of points in that, and I guess he's running like a political campaign of some sort right now. He's been around for a while still. Probably already heard about him, but I like watching these videos. But I think this was his latest one I watched this morning. And he's sounding optimistic because in the sphere of politics, you're hearing a lot of these debates in the forefront. He's been on a few shows, recently, and that. I'm always suspicious when dudes like this turn up because it's like, oh, are these just guys that just set up? Because could very well be in it. But yeah, in the sphere of politics, especially here in the UK at the minute, there's a lot of talk about taxing the rich, taxing the super rich and all this kind of stuff, and the debate whether or not that's a good idea because they're just going to run away with their money and send these countries or the UK into further poverty and all this kind of stuff, right? So there's a whole all that debate is going on right now. But this guy, because that talk is being had now in these different political circles, right? He's feeling optimistic, and I understand. If he's just a genuine dude, he's from he's local. He was one of us, right? From our kind of areas or my kind of areas, right? He's from Ilford. He's sounding optimistic, but we know as men of the Lord, as guys that know this truth, right? The elites, the super rich, do not care. They do not care even a little bit about equalizing the wealth and all this kind of business. They don't care if they run this country into the ground, all right? Because that's their plan, right? They're going to run the country into the ground because they want the chaos, in order to achieve their new world order agendas, right? Now, he might call that conspiracy, that kind of stuff, and whatever. He might not believe in any of that sort of stuff. That's fine. But that is the agenda that's being, which is at work, and this is why he hasn't seen nothing different in all these years of, he was doing trade and all that kind of stuff, and he knew that the economy was going to get worse, right? Because of what he's seen. It's the same thing with us, like, but we got a bigger picture to look at, right? And things are going to get worse. It's not going to get any better, and his place is going to crash and burn and all of that, right? Because that's part of their agenda, right? So there's a reason why he hasn't seen things change, and how he's been able to make all this money based on all the trading stuff, right? But yeah, these elites, they don't care. They don't care about people. They don't care about poverty. They ain't they're not affected by that. Right? They're gonna make money, and they'll make money till the cows come home, man. And they don't care who they crush in the process of it. Right? That's all part of the plan. So they can have you begging, essentially, when the time is right, to have you accept the mark of the beast. That's what it's gonna boil down to. All right. So, the guy is optimistic now because this talk's being had in the political sphere. So you might be saying we can win this now. Just get convince these people to bring in different policies and whatever, and we can bridge this wealth gap that exists, that's pushing people further into poverty. Right? Noble cause, whatever, but ultimately it's not one that's gonna succeed or change anything. The elites are gonna pull the plug on this place anyhow, right? But it's just to breathe hope into people, I guess. All right. and say, guy could be set up, might not be, I don't know, doesn't really matter, right? Because we stick to the script. So, things ain't going to change. So, let me open up with this. This is Proverbs chapter 10, verse 15. The rich man's wealth is his strong city, right? The destruction of the poor is their poverty, right? And this is what the guys, are supposed to be, defending, right? Trying to help poor people, or, balance out the inequality that the UK faces, right? But, not just here in the UK, this is something that's going on all over the earth, in all these different countries, right? Which he's been going around and stuff, right? So he identifies this is also happening all over the place, right? And it is bad, extreme, like the wealth gap, right? So, but they have the elites don't have no intention of changing that, right? Again, so the rich man's wealth is his strong sea. They want to keep an iron fist on the world, man. They're not going to just give it up, right? Now, a caveat to that would be, you might see some type of, for lack of a better word, compromise, right? Which is going to give you a false sense of hope, right? Again, just to lead you, like they're going to offer something. Like I said, it's the MOTB, which is the goal, right? So in order to balance the inequality out, they might say, well, we're going to go to the digital currency, and we're going to hand out these microchips and all that kind of stuff, right? And we're going to give you universal basic income, or is it Elon Musk? Elon Musk said it's going to be high universal basic income or something like that. All right, and this will help everybody, right? So they might come with they're going to come with that, but they might work towards this through this means, if you know what I'm saying, right? But yeah, the rich man's wealth is his strong city. The destruction of the poor is their poverty, right? And that's how they like it. All right. Let me. This is Sirach chapter 13, verse 20, right? It says, maybe from 18. What agreement is there between the hyena and the dog? And what peace between the rich and the poor? As the wild ass is the lion's prey in the wilderness, so the rich eat up the poor. Okay? As the proud hate humility, so doth the rich abhor the poor. Okay? So again, they have no intentions of really changing that, right? Regardless of all these, supposed talks going on. They've got different plans, man. Psalm 73 verse 3 says, for I was envious at the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. For there are no bands in their death, but their strength is firm, right? And they want to keep hold of that strength. They're not in trouble as other men, right? And the guy, we all know it, because he comes from a poor background. He's, Ilford lad. He understands. He knows what that's about, right? He knows what that's about. Even though he's rich now, but he knows what that's about, right? So they're not in trouble as other men. Neither are they plagued like other men, right? Because money solves a multitude of problems a lot of the time, right? Though it doesn't solve everything, right? Which Esau can't get away from his judgment with money. Can't defend himself against the judgment with money, but it solves a lot of everyday people problems. All right, when you got a bunch of money and you worry about affording food and stuff like that, a lot like a lot of people are today, stand in line at food banks, because they can't afford to buy groceries. People are choosing between electric and food and all this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? The poor are put in many predicaments because they have lack of funds, right? And that's increasing. So they are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men. Therefore pride compasses them about as a chain, right? The men are proud. They don't care really what goes on below them, right? So violence cover them as a garment. They make moves and decisions that affect poor people. They don't affect rich people so much, right? All these policies they bring in place, and really these things are acts of violence. Man, I'm talking about turning off your gas or not giving you money to fuel your gas for the old people. You know what I mean? Things like this, like that's terrible, man. People are gonna die, right? But and they know this, but it's like, it's just something we have to do. We can't cut the budget anywhere else. We're gonna cut the fuel allowance. you know, or we're going to raise taxes, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. But the rich, even though they might be affected somewhat by these different changes and that, they're not affected the same way proportionately, not even close, you know. So it doesn't really affect them. You know, it might be just more of an annoyance more than anything else, but it doesn't affect them. You know, it doesn't put them on the breadline. You know what I mean? But everything that they do against the poor affects them like heavily. Where we you raise up uh, national insurance, for instance, or anything like that. Even though you might 1% or 2%, that's a lot. 2% is a lot to someone who's got no money. Getting paid less, every week or month or whatever. You know what I mean? It's a lot because everything else is going up. Food's going up. Insurance, you drive a car, insurance goes up. Fuel's going up. Everything's going up. So it's not even just 2% that is being taken away, that you're taking away. It's like they're getting hammered. The poor are getting hammered, right? And like I said, it doesn't affect the rich the same way. And so, but like I said, they don't care. They don't care. That's just the truth. They don't really care, right? So violence covered them as a garment, right? So their eyes stand out with fatness. They have more than heart could wish. They got room. They got plenty of room to make bigger sacrifices if they really truly wanted to help the country and manage its its financials, right? To make things a bit more fairer for the poorer people. So they're not taxing the poor like crazy. They have room. They have a wiggle room. The buffer zone is mad crazy, right? So they got more than heart could wish, right? Whereas people at the bottom are struggling, to pay for things, right? So they are corrupt. All these politicians and all these elites, they are corrupt, right? Pardon me. And speak wickedly concerning oppression. They speak loftily, right? So they know the condition of the poor. They know the condition, man, and they just don't care. And they'll make another deal. They'll make another decision. They'll avoid this and that, and continue to make your life misery. They don't care about your situation. All right. They set their mouth against the heavens, and their tongue walketh through the earth. Right. So they don't care about your condition and how oppressed you are, or how poor you are, how much you're struggling. As far as they're concerned, well, you should have done better. Worked harder or something. Get another job. Get another 2 jobs. Who said that? I swear Rachel Reeves was saying that one era, one moment in time. Maybe just get another job, bro. The jobs are shit. An hour is long. The returns is not great, right? It doesn't make financial sense. Mathematical, it says it doesn't really return anything. To have all these multiple jobs and what they just burn out. Increasing sickness and injury. And yet you might have 2 jobs and still you just barely pay rent and all these different types of things. It's not like getting 2 jobs is going to bag you 70 grand. You can't do 2 jobs that are worth that much. It's going to be shit pay. Or you can only do things part-time, 0 contract hours and stuff like that. Whatever, ad hoc. Shit don't work out, but it's all right for someone that's got money to say that, because they ain't got to worry about getting a second job. A lot of the expenses is paid for. You know what I mean? They don't. They're very. It's not that they're detached. It's not that they don't know. They just don't care, right? And they have to sell the agenda. So they have to cause bring these things to the head, to the points, right? This is Wisdom of Solomon chapter 2 verse 1. So, for the ungodly said, reasoning with themselves, but not aright. Our life is short and tedious, and in the death of a man there is no remedy. Neither was there any man known to have returned from the grave. For we are born at all adventure, and we shall be hereafter as though we had never been. For the breath in our nostrils is as smoke, and a little spark in the mood of our heart. Which being extinguished, our body shall be turned into ashes, and our spirit shall vanish as soft air. And our name shall be forgotten in time, and no man shall have our works in remembrance. And our life shall pass away as the trace of a cloud, and shall be dispersed as a mist that is driven away with the beams of the sun, and overcome with the heat thereof. Right? For our time is a very shadow that passeth away, and after our end there is no returning, for it is far sealed, so that no man cometh again. Right? So this is the mentality of the wicked. which happen to be these Edomites at the top of everything. Right? They own all these companies and own all these politicians, and hell, they're the politicians themselves. They're part of it, right? It says, "Come on, therefore, let us enjoy the good things that are present," right? Because their life is fleeting, right? They're gonna enjoy everything to the max, right? And let us speedily use the creatures like as in youth, right? The creatures are the creation, right? So the people that they rule over, man, they're just gonna use the shit out of them as if they're, like a young man has full of energy, right? So they work hard, right? Yeah, they use the shit out of you, man, right? So they can benefit, right? That is what they do, right? They make you work bare hours in these different companies and corporations or whatever. You make them bare amounts of money, like tons of money, right? You get paid peanuts. They take home fat ass bonuses, and then you get guys like Jeff Bezos that are just moving around with billions or worth billions or whatever, and he just doing whatever the fuck he wants. But Amazon, he's gonna sack all the Amazon workers and replace them with robots. You know what I mean? Yeah, fucking up the economy even more. Because people are out of job now. You got these individuals that again, these men are escaping paying proper taxes and all this kind of stuff here, but they got the most, right? So, but this is they had to use this. They create the system, they abuse the system that they created, right? Because you got to abide by the system, but they get to abuse it because they got the power and the means to do so, right? So they're gonna use everything that they set up to benefit them, the rich, the elites. Okay, this is their mentality, right? Let us fill ourselves with costly wine and ointments, right? And let no flower of the spring pass us by. Let us crown ourselves with rosebuds before they be withered. Let none of us go without his part of our voluptuousness, right? They're here just to live fat. Let us leave tokens of our joyfulness in every place, for this is our portion, and our lot is this, right? Let us oppress the poor, righteous man. So they're here to oppress the poor. Okay, this is why the gap's been getting bigger. They had no intentions of really sharing and being fair and being equal. That the whole thing that these governments push of being equal and human rights, it doesn't really exist, man. It doesn't exist. It never has done, right? It's just something to have you argue over about and blind yourselves with. These elites, man, are just taking advantage of everything because they're in a position to. Right? That is again their mentality. Right? They don't care about the poor. The poor can die. You know what I mean? Especially now because they can replace them. Just put a machine in the job now. Make let AI do it. You people are becoming more and more disposable. Right? You matter less and less in their system now. Right? And all these people that are striking and asking for more pay, they can't wait to get rid of you. They can't wait to get rid of you. So as soon as they got a robot or an AI that can do it, you're gone. Right? That's how much they care about people. They don't care about people. They care about profits. Right? And again, that is not going to change. Right? You could all die today, and as long as it didn't affect their company like that, they wouldn't care. They might send out a few letters to the to the bereaved families and that, but they wouldn't care. They wouldn't care. Apparently, poor people are a burden on society anyway, according to these guys. So, anyway, he says, let us oppress the poor righteous man. Let us not spare the widow. Nor they don't care about the widow. They don't care about the old ladies and the old men in their council properties. They got no fucking heating. They don't care, right? No reverence the ancient grey hairs of the aged, right? Let our strength be the law of justice, right? So they do what they want basically, right? And they'll justify it. For that which is feeble is found to be nothing worth. If you're weak in this world, then you haven't really got a voice. You haven't really got a say. Right? You vote who we tell you to vote for. You don't have a say. You don't have a place in this world ultimately. Right? This is their world. Right? That's all I really want. So, again, the guy, Gary, I say he's sounding or looking optimistic because of the what's been circling in the news recently concerning this, but it ain't gonna change. It ain't gonna change, right? Did I read this already? Yeah, I did. All right. Okay, red. Okay, so yeah, let's get to this point now that I made. So, like I said, they will or may use this, right, to talk about the inequality to a greater extent, right, to the point where they decide that it needs to be addressed because it's not being addressed right now. No one wants to really address it, but maybe this movement will have it being spoken about more to the point where they say it needs to be addressed. And so, what's really going to happen if it gets to that point and they say we need to address it? Then all it's going to lead to is the MOTB, right? Because that is the only way they're going to have it addressed, right? So let me read this quickly. Is this Sirach chapter 14 verse 7 said, if he doeth good, he doeth it unwillingly, right? So remember, this is these, we're talking about the same people here, the wicked, the mentality of just fucking over everybody, right? So if he doeth good, he doeth unwillingly. He doesn't do it because it's gonna benefit you. He's gonna do it because it benefits him, right? And this benefiting him is you getting pushed further and further towards the mark of the beast, right? This is why we got all the digital currencies, coming into play. We got all this RFID technology, you know, payment systems and that. We got all those things in place. The Internet of Things and all of that, right? They're working on these systems to implement, right, to control the financial, system better, right? And all this talk of universal basic income, right, putting everybody on like a minimum amount or whatever, so that everybody can be catered for, right? They're talking about all these things, right? And to the average person, oh yeah, being paid, a certain amount every month or whatever sounds good because you haven't got to worry about work so much because there's lack of jobs because the jobs being taken away from you. So you got to worry, but there's not so much worry. There's a minimum standard of living you can keep because it's being provided for by the government, right? So that sounds like some sort of concession that they're working towards, balancing out the equality thing. That's if that's what eventually they're going to do. Whether they use this talking point to kind of push that, I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, so if he doeth good, he doeth unwillingly, and at the last he will declare his wickedness, right? And again, that wickedness is only the MOTB, you know. Right? It's Revelation 13 says this, verse 16, and he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Right? So they're going to set up a new payment system, a new financial system, right? Which you will require this mark, right, to be able to buy or sell. Okay, which is going to be in your hand or in your forehead. Okay, so that's good. That system's good. That new system's going to be in place, and that's going to be because shit's going to get real bad. This world is going to be very chaotic. All right, and these are the solutions that are going to come up out of that. Okay, that you people are going to be desperate for. Okay, but evidently the rich are enemy to the poor. Okay, these super rich, these elites, right? They are enemies, right? And so any decision that they make is not, they're not making it based upon it helping you or because it helps you. It's convenient. It's just like a convenience thing, right? It helps them towards their agenda. Give a little, take a little. Well, no, sorry, I said that wrong. Give a little, take a lot, because that's what they do. And this is how they've got further and further away from regular people. That's why there's no middle class no more. There's either the rich or the super rich or the poor. That middle bit's gone pretty much. But this says here, Sirach chapter 12, verse 10, said, never trust thine enemy. Right? For light as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. Though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him. Right? And thou shalt be unto him as if thou had wiped a looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust have not been altogether wiped away. Right? The attitude you know, the mentality of this devil, of these elites will not change, right? So they might appear humble, act humble, and you know, we need to do something about this. You know, it's been bad. You know, just say, you know, it's the same way with we've mistreated you black people for so long. You know, this time you can get the machination shot first. You know what I mean? You know, because we treated you bad in the past and we feel like we need to make up for it. No, all this humble shit is just a ruse. You know, as if they care. They don't care, right? And thou should know that his rust have not been altogether wiped away. He's still the same dusty, rusty ass dude with his wicked intent. Okay? Verse 12, set him not by thee, lest when he have overthrown thee, he stand up in thy place. Right? Neither let him sit at thy right hand, lest he seek to take thy seat. And thou at the last, remember my words, and be pricked therewith. Who will pity a charmer that is bitten with a serpent, or such any as come now wild beasts? Trusting these liars, these devils, is the wrong thing to do, because they will bite you. They will bite you, because you know, these people believe in the political system. They believe in who they vote for, and you get stung. You know, people, these men don't keep their words, right? And then you're going to pay for it. It says, so one that goeth to a sinner and is defiled with him in his sins, who will pity? For a while he will abide with thee, but if thou begin to fall, he will not tarry. An enemy speaketh sweetly with his lips, right? So they might turn around and say, you know what, you know, Gary's right. You know, Gary's been right. All we need to do is tax the wealthy, you know, and they'll have excuses where we can't, because that excuse is already in the circles, right? We can't tax the wealthy because they'll just disappear or whatever. But you know, but it said, oh, but instead we're going to do this. We should do this, and you know, they'll bring about these quote unquote solutions again, which is only going to lead you to adopting and accepting the mark of the beast, right? It wasn't to your benefit. It sounded like that, you know, it was working towards your benefit. They was telling you all the nice things, and that, yeah, we're going to do this, and this is going to balance this out. This is going to help poor people and such and such. But only it was really just to serve their agenda. Okay, and now you're a slave in the system, like a proper one. All right. So the enemy speaking sweetly with his lips, but in his heart he imagined how to throw thee into a pit, into a trap. Right, and that's exactly what Esau is doing. These elites, that's exactly what they're planning. Right, he will weep with his eyes. They'll put on the show, you know, the humility and the tiredness and all this other business, right? But if you find opportunity, he will not be satisfied with blood, right? If adversity come upon thee, thou shalt find him there first. And though he pretend to help thee, yet shall he undermine thee, right? He shall shake his head and clap his hands and whisper much and change his countenance. You know, the wickedness will come out in the last. That's what we just read in the previous scripture, right? And this, again, this is the mentality of the wicked. This is the mentality of these Edomites, that the super elite, all right? And that's all part of their plan and their agendas. So nothing's going to change, because if it looks like it's going to change, it's not. Because it's part of the plan to kind of dupe you all, into deceive you, into getting you further down that road for them, okay, which they want, right? These men are out here to destroy you, man. Okay, don't think any, you know, there's anything different. These wicked elite are out here to destroy people, man, to enslave you, right? And so they don't have no plans to change that. Okay, they're not going to have sympathy and, you know, all this kind of business, right? And you know, at the end, you know, as much as, you know, he's going to be disappointed in the end, or not. Like if he's still, I mean, if he's still making the hedges and making bets that, you know, the economy's going to tank, he's going to be all right. But you know, in terms of like this movement, ultimately, it's not going to succeed. You know, even though it might be right in what he's saying, but it's just not going to happen. These people are not going to, these people are not going to have that, right? They're not going to allow it to happen, right? These men are viruses. They are leeches. They are, yeah. I'm trying to think of another term, man. What's that one that they eat the host? I can't remember, man. But these, yeah, they're just parasites. There we go. They're parasitic, you know. And so, they have no change. They have no intention to change the condition of the poor. Not really. All right. So, you know, that's what it is. All right. So I'm going to end it there. Lord, when it's been edifying. And I'll catch you brothers and sisters on the next video. Until next time, I say shalom.